It's Saturday morning, 8:30. Started a little bit earlier today. I want to get a jump on the day, so been a pretty good week. Doing a lot of React Router with Tyler McGinnis, and I'm excited to get started. On this whole portfolio page I've been talking about. I've been just making it through Tyler McGinnis's stuff with React Router, and then Maximilian's with React overall. It's taking a long time just to get through that, but it's great because I'm using this stuff at work now. I actually have my first big project I gave to myself in quite a while, and it's refactoring like the structure of the website, and it kind of is unfortunate, but I've learned a lot from reading a lot of these different books. Clean Code was one, still reading it, but I'm actually learning a ton from that. And another one is, hey, what's going on, Your Average Joe? I'm just talking about my projects I've been doing for work and what I've been studying. So React Router, React with Maximilian. I'll show these on camera in a minute, but I was just talking about that and how it's actually helped me at work. My next big project is, it's got some crazy guys going on here. My next big project is at work is refactoring or giving some architecture to the front-facing website, and then building the CSS from scratch. So using programmatic like principles for CSS, using the BEM model, which is pretty cool. What's going on with you, Joe? Let me know what you're up to. So that's what I've been up to. It's been pretty fun. It's nice to see how far I've come, because it's been 1 year actually since I got here into my new position for real. I know I did a video on it about my first year in web development, but it's been my first year actually here, and it's great to see how much progress I made. Give me just a moment here. I'm just pulling up Tyler's course on React Router just to share that information with you, so you can see if it's worth it for you. I mean, I think it's super cheap. You get like a monthly access for like 15 bucks, and his courses are really good. So I will say React Router felt a bit rushed for my taste compared to some of the other courses, but still good stuff. Let's see if we can't get logged in here. Come on, I know you want to log in. Let's see. Here we go. Alright, so these are some great courses. I think he's doing Redux next. I think that's what he told me in the email, but I can't remember. And this is React Router, the course that I'm going through. He'll go through all the main things, so you can really see how to use React Router rather than just replacing like anchor tags and hrefs, and how you can grab stuff with the parameters and stuff. Cool stuff. Really cool because you can work with data that way. Let me go ahead and see who's here. We got Your Average Joe holding it down. I think I'm going to go ahead and share this video. I'm going to share this video with people in the Facebook group. Sorry about the wait. Going crazy here, huh? Alright, there we go. That way you don't have to see the screen. I typically do these live streams like an hour or two later, and so maybe a lot of people are used to that. But I think that's why a lot of people aren't here right now. Let me see here. If you have any questions, let me know. That's why I do these live streams, to answer questions. I think one of the best things, while you wait for me to do this, to do when you're learning programming is, of course, start from the basics. That's the biggest mistake I made. Learning how to use your programming language, learning your HTTP verbs, how the web works, how packets work, how the network works, your Google developer tools. And then from there you can make a lot of stuff. For instance, with this project at work where I'm completely making everything from scratch, it can be difficult if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have the basics, and you don't know how to debug and stuff like that. So I can debug a lot quicker than I ever could before, and I just know a lot more rules. I know how to search things up. Of course, I have a huge base knowledge too. So give me just a moment here. I'll share the screen with us. We'll see if they approve it. This self-taught programmers group, they're pretty strict on this, but usually I have a couple of people who will show my stuff. So let me see here. So what we got going on. You know, you can't win them all. Sometimes the live streams take a little bit of time to get started, so it looks like it's going to be one of our days. My portfolio is going, Corey. Oh, it's going. It's kind of nice at work. I'm redoing like the website, and by redoing I mean like not just like redesigning, but redesigning the architecture of how the files are. So they're kind of sloppily put together, and the CSS is kind of like a rat's nest. And so I'm actually using that as like for my CSS and presentation stuff, I'm using that first. So not just making a menu, but like sub-menus, and then using what's called BEM. I'll pull that up actually, which stands for Block Element Modifier for my CSS. With it's actually SCSS. So it's going, and it's nice because at work I've kind of like merged the two together, so I can be ready for it. And just organizing your stuff, organizing the architecture of the site itself, and because it's like this stuff is in place for a long time, and if you don't take care of it, you get what's called code rot. Corey says, I'm working on my mock-ups for my new portfolio. Sweet, man. You'll have to send me a message or something on LinkedIn so I can check them out. Code rot. I was talking about code rot. I learned about that. I'm still reading this book, but it's a really good one, and I got a recommendation. It was a recommendation from someone that I've actually talked with through Idaho Falls Programmers Club, as well as John Sonmez's Software Developer's Career Guide. It's called Clean Code. Let me go ahead and pull that up. So Clean Code is this book right here, and it's a long book, but it's really good, and it's close enough to JavaScript where you can look into it. There's another one that John Sonmez recommended, which was called, I'm not even showing it here. I'm sorry about that, guys. Okay, so Clean Code. This is Clean Code right here. And it's a pretty long book, but it's definitely worth it. If you only know JavaScript, you can make a lot of the stuff crosses over, and when they use examples with code, you're not going to be totally confused. Versus Code Complete, which is what I looked into, was like C++ and C#, and I was kind of confused, so I stopped reading it after like 200 pages, which is unfortunate because it was a good book, but it got really like specific about C++ and C#, and I couldn't like connect the stuff. Clean Code is what gave me like the extra courage to do some of these things, so like leaving the code cleaner than when you found it and stuff. So with this new project at work, it helps me organize the code so it will be that way for a long time. And when someone else comes back there, or myself, in a few months or years, it's going to have really good structure. Structuring like partials in CSS to filter up to the main CSS file, like components. And then we have like includes, like scripts through ASP, and just even like putting those and organizing them into the appropriate files and folders and naming them correctly and separating them out. For instance, we had like a header and a navigation that was put together. I separated those out. I put them in a different folder with the right name, and then a couple more things like that with footer. So they were all separated out and in their own files, so you can get to them easier. And then of course cleaning up the code, removing some things, and then like redesigning. It's almost like a redesign, but it's like a half step. The big heavy work is done on the code, and then just making it more modular so someone can come in there and make changes with the CSS on the classes, rather than having like CSS just tossed in there, which is horrible, with tags and anchors and styling, all those things, which I thought was fine, of course, when I started a year ago, but now seeing how unmaintainable it can be and how unpredictable, I was able to take some of that modularity from React and make that, and then put it in my own portfolio. Corey says C and C++ are pretty low-level languages, difficult to learn in my opinion. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, well, I don't know if this is going to help me too much, so let's try Clean Code instead. It's a shorter book. It's only 360 pages, maybe 400 pages, I don't know. But it's like half the size of Code Complete. What else have you been up to, Corey? Oh, and I was just sharing with these guys React Router with Tyler McGinnis, by the way. And I know you're not like into that, but just showing it off. What I was working on. I'm almost done with this course. It's pretty good. It is a little bit fast, like you said, Corey, but it works for me. A little bit slow today. A little bit slow in the live stream. And that's alright. No big deal. You know, we have ups and downs. Oh, a few cool things that have happened on the channel, actually. Let's see here. I hit over 300,000 views, which is a big deal to me. Looks like we're kind of running a little bit slow here. The stream is a little bit slow. And that can be a reason why a lot of people aren't tuning in today. So sorry about that. What was I talking about? The latency, right? Yeah, that's what I see here, man. I might cut this one a little bit short, just because it's so. The stream isn't good today. Sorry about that. Darn it! Now I forgot what I was talking about. We're talking about this, talking about that. Let me see what the latency is set at. I don't know, man. Sometimes it's just like when you're out and about, sometimes you get good Wi-Fi, sometimes you don't. Today is one of those days. We were talking about clean code, about the portfolio project. Hey, what's up, Bassy? JavaScript as a language has gotten better. Yes, Bassy, I 100% agree with that. When I first started, it was crazy weird. I mean, it's crazy weird because I was learning programming in general, but just some things would just be nice to have that you don't even think about. Like, automatically scoped this with the arrow functions, properly scoped, I should say, and then defaults, destructuring, you know, those default values, or some other things, classes, quote-unquote classes. So, yeah, I like that stuff. I really do think it's come a long way. Good morning, Mateo Garcia, my son, over here. Burke says, talking about this and that. Burke, he can give me a little more information. Yeah, but with JavaScript, I think it's great. But then again, it's just because that's the only language I know. I remember I was just talking about something like this to someone else. I think it was yesterday, about how a lot of people don't like JavaScript, coming from C or something. So I thought, you know, I don't even know the difference. Oh, when they talk about classes and how they don't work the same, I'm like, I don't even notice the difference because I've never coded in anything else. So that's what coding phase usually says, this and that. Are you talking about like it's looking like Python? Every 10 sentence, I like Python. Well, I'll tell you what, Burke, this and that. I'll try to switch it up for you there. I'm glad to see that we got more people here, because I was kind of wondering what was happening to the stream. You know, I just talked. Oh, that's what it was. I have a coworker that I work with that wants to get into coding, or is getting into coding rather, and he got into Python, and he says it's really great. So I kind of want to get into Python, but at the same time, no. You know, because this comes up a lot, actually. It's not so much about the how many languages you know, but how many problems you can solve for someone. And with my language, which is JavaScript, there's a lot of programs out there and applications and things that you can do, but you have to know it pretty deep, right? So if I can solve more problems, that's what really matters. Raul says, JavaScript is my favorite, coming from a CS program that taught Java and C++. Nice. Yeah. How was CS? How was your computer science degree? I'm kind of reeling, I guess I should say, from coming from a self-taught background, because we miss a lot of things there, like data structures and algorithms, which I've focused really hard on getting better at. But what else did you guys study? I know maybe like systems, operating systems and stuff. But Raul, if you could let us know what types of things you learn in the CS degree that you don't learn from self-taught, if you have any experience with that, I'd appreciate it. What's everyone working on, by the way? Like, what projects or what are you guys studying? Let me know. For me, React, of course, algorithms, this darn portfolio thing, but even before then I had to make sure I have my algorithms, and then reading clean code all at the same time. So it's pretty good stuff. I highly recommend you read clean code if you are like in a year or so into programming. It's going to really help elevate your code and make it more organized and make it last longer. It's going to look a lot more impressive, in my opinion, because you're going to be coding not just to make something work, but to make it sustainable, make it organized and stuff. So yeah, that's what I would do if I were starting out. Oh, for those of you who don't know, I just wrapped up a interview with Dylan from Coding Tutorials 360 that I put out sometime last night. I uploaded it and then went to bed. Everything you mentioned is lower level languages like MIPS. Thanks, Raul. Bassi says, if you already know a programming language, you really don't need to learn Python unless you want to do data science. Yeah, ton of data science people are all about that Python. Corey says, I think JavaScript is good at making practical things. In my CS instruction, the material with Java was much more theoretical. Ew. That's all I can say is ew. I mean, theory is good. You have to have it. And I study a lot of theory too. But, you know, I went to school and learned too much theory in economics and wasn't able to use it at all. So I might be biased, is what I'm trying to say. Let's see. Let's see here. What was I talking about? We were talking about C#. We were talking about coding. Dang it, now I can't remember. I think I was talking about how many views I had. This is what happens when you go live. You gotta try to stay focused. So my apologies. Weekend coding. I was working on React router, React, just a ton of stuff. Getting stronger, of course. It's crazy because when you get good at JavaScript and like OOP and like really study these languages, or excuse me, these principles, you are going to have better CSS if you want. Oh, I was talking about the BEM model, like way before any of this. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Give me just a moment here to share the screen. All right, so this is just a introduction to BEM. There's all these different methodologies that you can use, like OOCSS. Basically, it just gives everything the same like priority in CSS. For those of you who don't know, different types of selectors get different priorities. So like the lowest priority are tags, like paragraph tags, anchor tags, images. Those are the lowest priority. And then if you give a class, then that's the second highest priority, and then a div, or not a div, an ID is the highest priority. So if you style an ID, and you can't really override that with anything else. So if I was like, okay, well, I set the font to be bold on this ID, I try to override it with a class, and just say, well, now I want it to be like 300. Wait, can't do that. So what BEM does, is it flattens everything out with just like this guide, like these styling guides. So there's block, element, and modifier here. Let me go ahead and increase the screen just to make sure that everyone can see this. Block, element, modifier. And you follow this methodology to keep everything on the same level, so it's easier to override or truly follow that cascading style sheets the way of doing things, and then using like object oriented like methodology, so everything is an object, everything is like encapsulated in this object. So you can go, you can add all this programming stuff even to your markup and styling if you're like a designer or something like that. Definitely check it out. Let's see. Raul says, I'm taking some time off to learn web development on my own. Still need 1 more year to complete my CS degree. Hats off to you, Raul. But that's a good way to do it. Just stay immersed, in the tech. Web stuff is good. Learn about HTTP verbs, of course, HTML and CSS. And if you have some programming knowledge and you've done some imports of files and stuff, SCSS is going to be huge. You can use globals and variables, not in the same way that you can like programming, but you can like declare things, and it's going to work great for you if you're doing something like that. So check that out. Let me see here. What do we got? How many people we got here? We got 4. Ugh, stream is low again. Do we get disconnected? No. Sorry about that, guys. It's a little bit laggy today. So, if you have any questions, now is a good time to ask them, because, well, I've kind of told you about what I'm doing, what I've learned over the past week. Oh, I think I told you about my interview with Dylan, Coding Tutorials 360, that I just uploaded sometime in the middle of the night. Is brackets a good editor? Abhijit asked. I have heard it's a good editor. I don't know from personal experience, but that's what I've heard. So, pretty sure it is. My favorite editor is I'll pull it up actually and show you. It's, let's see. There we go. This one right here. Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is just awesome. You can see what I named this old app. This crappy app. I need to get rid of that. Anyway, I don't use Visual Studio Code too much on this laptop. I don't use this laptop for much at all, other than like browsing and doing live streams. But it's great, and they update it all the time, which would seem bad, but because they're constantly updating, you're always getting great new features or improved features all the time. So I would definitely check it out. Hold on, making coffee, Casey says. Let's see. Let me see. Oh, Corey says, Abhijit, Wani, I have used it before. It has a good live server feature, but I prefer VS Code. Me too. Raul says, are you working on any React projects? My portfolio is made in React. Completely in React. I did a chat app just for fun, just to show that I can make something, because you study these things for so long and sometimes you forget to actually make something on your own. And so just to prove that I could do something, I made a chat app, and it was like just the front end, right? So it didn't actually like connect to anything. So it let me know that I could use these arrow functions and the this binding and pass props down, set props in different areas. And so, yes. True Carlos says, which cities do you recommend to move to get a job as a developer? Man, I don't know. The ones that will take you. I would say start in your local area if you can, True Carlos, and look for what they're hiring. That's probably going to be your best bet. Or just have like a stellar portfolio that shows that you really know what you're talking about. So I would recommend starting there and trying to find out what tech, like what people are looking for. In fact, let's go ahead and do that now. Let me go ahead and read a few things here. Abhijit says, do I need another framework for backend when using Angular? Because Angular feels like a complete framework. Abhijit, I do not know the answer to that. I think you need something like MongoDB, but if anyone has more experience with Angular, please let us know. So let's go ahead and go to Indeed.com. So let's say, let me go ahead and pull this up, sorry. So let's say Idaho, okay? True Carlos. We want to look for Idaho and let's say web developer. So we can see there's, whoops, let's get rid of that. WordPress development. I'm going to increase the screen again here for you. WordPress development, in-house developer, QA engineer. So let's see what some of these want. A web designer. Let's try that again. Nope, it just opens up here. It depends on how big your screen is. It can sometimes just open up on the side. So they want HTML, CMS. This one's pretty simple, right? HTML, CSS for my area. That's for the web designer at Thrive Web Designs. PHP. Here's another one. So let's see what they want. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So you're kind of seeing that, well, maybe HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is something that I need. Local interactive website. Now, granted, you're going to need that for anything, but see if there's any specifics or specials that pull up PHP again. PHP. See, web designer for Idaho Power Company. Give me just a moment here. Sorry about the wait. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, UX. So of course HTML and CSS. UI developer, UI web developer. Let's see this one for St. Luke's Health System. SQL. So you would want to go through a bunch of this. Oh look, Node.js, Angular, all those things. So you would want to go through a bunch of these, right, and just try to find out which skills people want. So that's what I would do. No, I didn't say anything. Sorry, my son's over here. Thought I was talking to him. Anyone else have any questions? I said in about 30 minutes here. We kind of talked about BEM, about how you can bring programming, like best practices into your CSS. Oh, dude, it's really tricky because I'm modernizing everything. A lot of the things that I'm putting in there are just fixing, right, on our website. So when you get down to like a mobile view, it will push everything to the side instead of having it centered. Things like that. Then completely stripping out Bootstrap. We don't need Bootstrap. We can make our own framework and with BEM, right? And not rely on them and be able to customize things. Then making a few modular things like a banner, like a news banner, a really thin one that will like push to the next blog post or whatever we're doing, right? Just using these programming things for HTML and CSS, which you would have never thought of. Maybe on your first job or your first months on the job. True Carlos says thanks, appreciated. You're welcome. Corey says Abhijit Wani for front end frameworks like React or Angular. Most people use a backend like Node or Express. When React or Angular needs something from the backend, it will get push pull request post. Yep, get push pull post. Good job, Corey. Thanks for helping us out there. You can also bypass Node, Express, and go straight to a database such as Firebase and MongoDB. True. Yeah, and sometimes with that though, like with like MongoDB, you might be able to do an AJAX request, which I've done before, but that can be, it depends. If you have any sensitive data, don't do that because they can access that stuff if they really want to, or they can have the key to your database if they really wanted to. So be careful with that. Firebase, I've used it in like tutorials. It's really great. It's really easy. That's why so many front-end developers love it, because there's none of that stuff on the back end, which is cool. But keep in mind with Node, like all these back end things, you can do more than just save stuff to a database. You can authenticate users. You can send emails, etc. David Miller says, "Hi Ricky, how you doing today? Just a question. What would you recommend for learning JavaScript? I just know some basic JavaScript now." Well, David, it depends on how much basic is to you. But I'll just give you some recommendations that I always give to everyone, and this goes for anyone here. Give me just a moment here, and I'm just pulling up Amazon.com. Treehouse, of course. If you haven't done that already, look up Treehouse. That's a very good one to use. And then I have a book here that's just great for learning the way to write things. So like when we learn like writing when we're young kids, right? I just went through this with my son. Still going through it, but we have to write things over and over, right? We have to learn things over and over. So what we do is we write them over and we sound them out, and we do them in pieces, or writing the same sentence over and over, right? And that's what we can do with this book here. It's a smarter way to learn JavaScript. Excuse me, let's make sure I did that right. Yeah, we're on the right screen, sorry. It's a smarter way to learn JavaScript. Now this is done by Mark Myers. I learned it a long time ago, but it's always stuck with me. It's one of the best like starter books. He was a professor, I think at Harvard, I'm not sure, but he was a professor, so he has a different way of teaching than a lot of people do. And the book is like half of it, not even, like most of it's done on like an online platform. And so you do half of it on the book, and it'll show you like how to write something out, how to grab something, and you do it over and over and over in the exercises, and you do it in like rapid succession. Great way to learn JavaScript. And then also there's it looks like he has a new one here, a smarter way to learn JavaScript, a new tech-assisted approach. Check that one out maybe, and then do the jQuery one as well. He has HTML and CSS too, I think. These are great books just to really get that basic knowledge, to really get the syntax down. How you say something like, I need to tie my shoe, and then learn algorithms. The easiest one that I've found is, and I'm not saying it's the best, because there's a lot better algorithms out there, but they're the simplest to get started with. Excuse me. Let me just pull up your chats here. Sorry, David. Oh, you know that loading screen takes forever. Let's see. Any day now. Any day now. All right, so sorry about that. Stephen Greider's coding interview bootcamp will teach you algorithms and data structures. Don't do that one first. It's a little more complex. It builds on top of a lot of these newer things in ES 2015 and stuff, ES 6. Do this course right here with Eric Traub, learning data structures in JavaScript from scratch and learning algorithms in JavaScript from scratch. We talked about this on the last live stream. There was, it's just a lot of the basics from like straight up old school JavaScript, so you're not going to have to remember so much. You want to learn the core of JavaScript and then move to ES16. And by doing these over and over, it's like we talked about, like I just said, you're learning the basics. You're learning how to do these things over and over, and what they mean, and doing it from a structured way where you're abstracted from CSS and HTML. So you're just focusing on JavaScript. And you can do something like this, and you'll say, well, why is it like this rather than how I've seen it with like the brackets? Well, if it's a one-liner, you can take out the brackets and the return statement, just write it on one line. Things like that. Hopefully that answers your question, David. Thanks for coming along for the ride, everyone else. Do we have any other questions? If not, I think I'll call it a day and get my day started. Oh, you know what? Anyone doing Super Bowl stuff? For those of you outside of the U.S., the Super Bowl, and doesn't know, which I'm sure you do, but just in case, the Super Bowl is like a national holiday almost. It would be our World Cup, so to speak, and so a lot of people are all about it. So yeah, it's definitely something that people are talking about here. I will be coding, and I will be doing that mostly. I'll have the game going on in the background. So hey, David, you're welcome. Thanks for the question. With that said, I think we are wrapped up today. It's a short one, but I think actually I'll come back tomorrow. So around my normal time, 10, 11. I know I should be stricter with these things, but hey, I got a life too. So appreciate you guys coming by. If you haven't done so, check out my interview with Coding Tutorials 360. It's a video before this, uploaded it later this night. If you did like this content, of course, hit the like button or share it with someone that might find it helpful. And that's it. Thanks for coming by, guys. Talk to you later. Whoops. Let's stop that.